Hi, how you going? And welcome to My Garage Rules. And how are you, Bob?
Great to see you, Brent. How are you? I'm going wonderful.
I'm doing okay now, mate. This is awesome. We're next to some fantastic race cars. What can you tell us about them?
Well, Brent, these cars are a 69 Camaro and a 70 Camaro, and we run in the Touring Car Masters series. Both cars are very competitive. Andrew Medecki's driving this one, Mark King's driving that one. This car here I built in 1969. I drove it for 12 months and we did quite well with it. I've stepped out of the seat at the moment and we're just looking at managing the team. And this car currently is running third in the Touring Car Masters Championship. Now, we've got a 650 horsepower engine. We're running a Jericho gearbox, a 9-inch forward rear end. The car weighs 1,600 kilos and you know, it's very competitive with the class it runs in, the likes of John Bowe, Jimmy Richards, Glenn Seaton. All these guys are running in, the ex-touring car champions are running in this class, and yeah, this car is going really well.
Well, whether I'm showing my age, but I actually remember all those names you just mentioned. Now, Andrew Medecki, that name rings a bell.
Yeah, Andrew Medecki's been driving one of my cars now for something like he drove my NASCAR for 5 or 6 years. He's been driving this car for 3 years. Currently running third in the championship in this car, and he's doing quite well. He holds quite a lot of track records, and he's a great driver.
They're beautifully presented cars, and you know, we'll explain to the viewers as well that these are pure touring car race cars like they used to race in Bathurst many years ago.
Yeah, these are the real race cars. I mean, at the end of the day, touring cars now are so sophisticated, but these are the race cars that put Bathurst on the menu, sort of thing. Yeah, they're great.
So how often do you get to race these cars? Now, we just had Clipsal recently, so how popular is these cars at the Clipsal?
Yeah, this category car is currently on a phone ring around from the racing fans in Australia. It rates something in the 40%.
Wow.
People want to watch these cars, and this is after a touring car now. Touring cars, we back up the touring cars something like 8 times a year, and we're racing these cars 8 times a year as a support category. We're touring cars, so it's a great category to be racing in.
That's fantastic, and it's just bringing back that old race car. I mean, I remember the Hardy Ferrodo. I mean, I'm really showing my age now, but I just remember the Channel 9 car and everybody, the Minis even the racing the Minis when they won Bathurst at some stage as well.
It was pretty spectacular, that Channel 9 car, especially
it was,
when it did its barrel roll. But that's exactly the same car as you have here in the 70 Camaro. It's exactly the same model car as the Channel 9 Camaro. This car's only been racing 18 months. And it is now running in the top 6 cars here in the category. So we've got great expectations for that car.
Now, we've been hosting a few shows here, and I happened to notice this car recently over this side, and it used to be yellow. Now it's black. How did that happen?
Yes, we unfortunately lost one of our major sponsors in Westrack last year. They've sponsored the car, and they have a smaller sponsorship this year on the car. They were the major sponsorship for the car. Now, came out of the paint shop on a Thursday yellow. Lubrimex came along on Friday morning 10 o'clock and said, can we have it black? By Tuesday morning the car was black. So yeah, we're lucky enough to have like the Truck Factory, which is a great Adelaide based company here that look after us for sponsoring it for dents and painting it, and they did it over the weekend for us, done a great job.
That's unreal. And for a race car, both race cars, they're beautifully presented. They're just fantastic. And the roll cage is pretty heavy in there. I mean, obviously you're going to have that for protection.
Yeah, we certainly do. We have had, over the years, we have had the odd crash in different race cars. I've been racing for something like 40 years now, and especially in NASCAR, I've had a couple of 275 kilometres an hour crashes, unfortunately.
Wow.
And we have made television a couple of times through the wrong reasons, but anyway.
That's why you put advertising underneath.
Yeah, that's
it.
it.
Actually go upside down.
Yeah.
Well, Bob, look, thank you very much. These race cars are just awesome, and I don't know, just standing next to these, I feel the history just oozing off these cars, and I really appreciate you taking the time to show us tonight.
Great.
Thanks,
very
Bob.
much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm sitting here with Rino. How are you, mate?
I'm very well, thanks. How are you?
Mate, I'm as happy as a pig and you know what. And I'm telling you, I'm excited about what's sitting behind me right now. You've brought this beautiful drag car in. Wow, tell us a little bit about the drag car.
It's a late model VE Commodore HSV. We built it to get
Certainly
the drag
doesn't look like
racing.
a VE Commodore anyway, does it?
Yeah, a little bit different with the front missing, and it's a bit carbon fibreish, but no, she's a...
Mate, I can't believe the detail on this. It's unbelievable. The down to the brakes, to the exhaust even. I mean, it's such a great drag car. I mean, look, I remember drag racing back in the old days, and I'm not trying to show our age here at all, but, I remember the days when you didn't care about having all this polished stuff, you just threw the extractors on and stuff like that.
Right.
Things have definitely changed, and the motor on this is unbelievable. What can you tell us about that?
She's a 526 cubic inch Brad Anderson engine. Runs about 3,500 horsepower.
So I wonder what my car is. So mine's about 215 kilowatts. So I don't know, the younger generation now talking kilowatts and stuff like that.
Yeah.
God knows what this would be. So we're talking how much horsepower again?
3,500.
3,500 horsepower.
Yeah.
So what's that feel like to go down the track?
It's... Mate, I say to everybody, it's like standing in front of someone and kicking them as hard as you can in the chest. And that's what it feels like when
Just
you
that
launch.
pushed back in the chest feeling sort of
It's
thing.
about a -3 Gs on launch and +4 on the parachutes,
Wow, so this is sort of like throwing a jet pilot or something like that, wouldn't it?
Very, very close to, yes.
Wow.
On the launch.
So look, I remember that drag racing is back in Adelaide, and I thank you for bringing it back to Adelaide, because I remember the days, and so do the viewers as well, back in the 90s and early 80s and so forth. Now I'm really showing my age. But, it's great to have it back in Adelaide, and, very proud of you for doing it, mate, and hats off to you. And you've got a great team behind you and so forth for getting this off the ground. Now, can you remember the first day that you went to a drag race?
I can actually, It was totally different. There was the Wild Bunch back then, similar sort of setups to what we got today.
So this is a Wild Bunch. We've got to get that right.
Basically, if you know, this is indoor slammer.
Yep.
Wild Bunch was the equivalent to what we run today. And mate, that's what blew me away back then. I said one day I'm always going to have one, and to this day I've got it.
I mean, you'd remember as well. I remember Victor Bray and so on with his 57, and Ned with his 57, that beautiful
Exactly
blue.
right.
And Ned's still around, you're telling me as well, too.
Yes, he is. Yeah.
That's amazing.
And Victor as well. They're both coming over here in September.
Because going by my haircut and everything and my shirts, you can tell I sort of like hot rods as well. And
Beautiful.
I remember Serge Benetti
Yes.
with his 32, that black 32.
Yes, he does run. Yep.
Oh, wow. I think we should go and have a chat to him too. I reckon that'd be an awesome interview.
I do believe you should. He's, he's actually probably one of like an iconic bloke in drag racing as well, and also in the hot rod scene.
Yep.
I don't know him fully personally, but I've heard a lot about him, and he's supposed to be a very nice bloke. Drag racing's always inspired me. It's been one of the things I've always loved to do. But it came down to the whole reason of putting drag racing back on the scene here in South Australia is because we've been missing it for 11 years. 11 years, but during that 11 years I've had a lot of friends, and one of my main friends, or a good close friend of mine, lost his son from racing on the street. So from that was it. That's what inspired me. I decided that was it. We needed to get somewhere to go legally, and just pushed and pushed and pushed. Because the old owner that used to run the racetrack, and now we've got the new owner. I was a thorn in his side, let me tell you. I just didn't stop until we got it, and he gave me the approval. And then once I had the approval, it was amazing. The transition was ridiculous.
I mean, for myself, knowing the history about, the younger hot rodders and stuff in the early 50s back in the States, when they were killing themselves on the street, and the police decided to open up the old airstrips and make them into drag racing,
That's right.
So, and the killing stopped, basically. So, I mean, let's get the kids off the street, let's get them onto a track, and what a better way to do it than, have it at Adelaide International Raceway.
Yeah, you can, and the best thing about it is we've got the safety aspect there. It's absolute key to have the aspect of safety. I'm paramount with it, and it comes down to just even the guys that want to run on a street meet. We just make sure the safety's there for them.
Beautiful. And look, the drag car is just gorgeous, mate, and I really appreciate you bringing it in. And so the motor was built by?
It was originally built by a group in Victoria.
Yep.
And then now I've got an American by the name of Jim Prescotta building the engine. I actually fly him in to build it.
You fly him in to build the motor?
Yes. Yeah.
Wow.
It's just, this is what he does. I mean, he actually, his part is jet boats, doing the blown jet boats.
Yep.
And he did tell us over his period of his life, he's lost 2 drivers.
Oh, wow.
In jet boats. Like they're amazing. They do what we do on the land, they do it in the water.
Yep.
And like this thing runs at 598 at 238. They do it on the water, over a quarter mile.
That's unbelievable. Well, mate, look, I really appreciate you bringing in the drag car tonight. I know it's a bit of an effort to bring it in and so forth, and bringing racing on promotions to us and showing us all this amazing drag racing stuff you got here. And wow, I'm just really excited, mate. I'm glad you brought it back to Adelaide. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I
No,
really
thank
appreciate
you.
it.
All right.
Lovely. Thank you.
Thanks. Standing next to Rob. How are you, Rob?
Very good, thanks, Brendan.
Well, we're out here in the car park, but we're out here for a very good reason. We're right here now with the Corvette Club of South Australia. Now, you've put on there's a great event happening here tonight, isn't there?
There is, yep. There's a fundraising event to help Shine.
And look, tell us just firstly about Shine and then a little bit about the club. So what's Shine involved?
Shine is a foundation that raises money to help people with difficulties with depression and mental illness, basically.
So a really good cause.
Yeah, well, half our members are in need of it, so.
Yeah, well, I think I might be too. But look, the Corvette Club, how long has the club been around for?
Oh, I think late 70s, I think.
Wow, so you'd have quite a few huge members. I mean, we're noticing probably about 24 cars here tonight.
Yes.
Some people didn't bring their cars, but how many members you've got?
141 at the moment.
Oh, wow. And so being the president of the Corvette Club, obviously you own a Corvette, and what's yours?
An 89.
Oh,
and I've got a
nice.
71 in the shed that I'm doing up.
Uh-huh. And so what's this whole event here apart from, I know it's for Shine, so
Yep.
it's a bit of a fundraiser. It's put on by, who puts that on?
Yeah, well, Sharon and Bob Middleton have supplied the venue, and it was their insistence that we come here, which is fine with us, you know, because we are a very social club anyway, and we like to go on different runs to different places and do different things. And so this is a club event as far as we're concerned. So we've turned up here to have a feed and talk to Allan Moffat.
Wasn't the food good?
It was very good. Yes. Yeah.
And look, you've done an event very similar to this, and you raised some money. You were telling me about that before.
Yeah, we have a Corvettes in the port every February, and we get high 80s to 90. First year we did over 100 Corvettes. So we blocked Todd Street, Port Adelaide off, and we all get together there, and it's we have a band, and people can come and look at the cars, and then the money we raise, we charge an entrance fee, we have raffles, and all that money goes to Shine or our nominated charity, and our nominated charity is Shine.
So I've never seen so many Corvettes in my life here tonight, and it's a great turnout. But if somebody wants to join the club, they can join, obviously, on a... Have you got a website or something set
Yeah,
up?
we've got our website, yes, so they can get on the website and look us up and chase us up from there. And we've got a big event in Barossa Valley next year at Easter. We've got our National Corvette Convention, and all the money we raise through that will go to Shine as well. So hopefully we can do fairly well out of that for them.
Well, it sounds like the club's got a really big heart, and we really appreciate you taking the time to say hello to My Garage Rules tonight. Thanks, Rob.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm here with probably one of my biggest idols. I hope you don't mind me saying that, Alan. But ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Allan Moffat, and you can hear the applauding right now on the other side. So, how are you, Alan?
The walls are rattling already.
Look, we really appreciate you coming on the show to My Garage Rules and coming down to Little Adelaide for a magnificent show. Why are you here in Adelaide?
It's big time Adelaide.
Big time. We just
always
got the cars
liked
outside.
Adelaide.
It's
Yeah,
great, isn't it?
it is.
So this is part of the Corvette. They've got an anniversary or something tonight, and they've asked you to come along to be a guest presenter.
Something like that, yes.
That sounds like a really good. Well, let's talk about you.
Okay.
Now, if somebody's been living under a rock or has been living on Mars and don't know who you are, I mean, but we all know who you are, Alan. Now, you have a distinguished degree. Can I mention that you were born in 1939?
Well, I try to forget that, but yes.
But your distinguished career, your first car, we've got to talk about cars because we're all about cars on this show and bikes, but your first car was a Triumph TR3. What can you tell us about that?
Well, that was a sports car I bought when I first came. My first car really was a 35 Ford, which I took all apart and learned what the difference between a cylinder head was and a tail light. And the TR was my second car, which I bought secondhand in Melbourne. And I just drove that around the streets. I didn't have any illusions about being a race driver, and I make this point very strongly. I wasn't born a race driver. I became one. I became one because when the light dropped, I applied myself.
So I've got to ask you about the touring cars. So what do you think of today's drivers and today's teams? Does anybody stand out as, maybe your favourite?
I can't comment on that for biased reasons. My son is in the field, so yes, I'm looking at it.
That's right. Tell us about your son.
Well, I was very happy to see in Auckland last weekend. He came 10th. Was the first Nissan home. and he's in the big league now, and he's spent all his adult life learning and sweeping floors and working for various companies that used him as a golfer, and I was very proud of the fact that he had his nose down and kept himself fit, and now he's driving for Norton, and he has a Nissan contract, and he's a very happy boy.
The 1-2 victory win in 1977.
That far ago. That far ago. That long ago.
That long ago.
Yeah.
In fact, I have right here with me tonight, I've actually got the poster, which I was showing you before, the 1-2 thank you from BP, and for 1977, when I actually remember that day I was sitting there with my father watching that, and sorry to say that, but I was a little whippersnapper back then, and I do remember that race.
Well, it was a great achievement for the whole team, and I was so proud of Colin Bond. He was always a rear gunner and prepared to stick it out as hard as he could. It was fantastic when I was able to hire Jackie Hicks, 6 times Le Mans winner, to come out and co-drive with me. That was thrilling. Alan Hamilton backed Colin up, and the picture shows it all. Can we show the picture or no?
Yeah, we'll
no.
probably
You'll
that up
take
anyway,
it
so
later.
yeah.
But to have the 1-2, we were within millimeters of each other. It was absolutely thrilling.
You were explaining as well, you had no brakes when you were coming through there.
There were about 8 laps to go. I felt the pedal go down a bit, and I thought, oh, that'll be all right. And then I felt it a second time and went all the way to the floor, and I thought, uh-oh, I've got a little trouble here. But I wasn't prepared to go in. There were no Holdens in view, so I thought, well, Colin will get closer to me as soon as he can. And as it turned out, with about 3 laps to go, we got into formation, and then he could have passed if he wanted, but he was a true team mate. He was a team player, and he knew the value of having the number 1 car and the number 2 car. And the photo, you couldn't
ask for a better photo.
Hollywood couldn't have got a better finish, but it was a great day.
Well, look, thank you, Alan, and I think the viewers on our show will just absolutely be amazed that you're here tonight for us. So we thank you, and enjoy your stay in Adelaide tonight.
And good luck to everybody listening and everyone on the show.
Thank you very much, Alan. Really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Mark and myself have known each other for quite a while through our 2 businesses, and both of us have a love of bobbers and old school bikes. We've done the Harleys, a few of them now, and the Harleys have been easier to acquire. I've got a bit of a love of British bikes as well.
I like the bobber style bikes because they're just simplified, they're just built to be ridden, and nothing more, nothing less. Generally, I've been starting with Harleys just because they appeal to me a bit more. Older style Harleys, generally iron heads, but basically whatever pops up. Whatever I find that someone's trying to flog off cheap because they've gotten sick of it, or whatever the case may be, and I just simplify the bike and build it to ride. I strip everything off of it, all bar the motor. Basically only put back what needs to be back there for legality reasons. It's all about stripping and simplifying, cutting things down. Shorter guards, lower, lose the indicators if it's an older bike, shorter pipes. I guess it's just simplifying, so you get rid of all the ball dust you don't need, put in the bits and pieces that you like. Nothing more, nothing less. It's just built to do what you got to do. Get out and ride it, and that's it. Most of the parts you can buy online now. You can buy anything online, so I usually buy things online or just basically fabricate small bits and pieces like brackets and what have you. To me, it's built for short distances, have a bit of a squirt, go to a show, that's about it.
This bike's one of my favourites. I guess for starters, it's a 68, which is the year I was born, so a little bit of attachment there. And I think this one's come out quite well. It sits a lot lower than some of the others we've done. We went for a little bit of a different styling with the paintwork. Overall, I think it's got the look that we were really chasing. Cafe races are definitely a favourite of mine. I like the bobber style a little bit more than the cafe races. As I said, I'm a fan of British bikes, so cafe races and bobbers are really surging in popularity all across Australia at the moment. There's a couple of shows around. Some shows you can go to interstate will pull 150 bobbers, and people are really seeking them wherever they can. Now, they're not only building them out of British or Harleys, but a lot of people were chopping up Japanese bikes and building them into the same thing, both with the cafe races and the bobbers. It's more of a hobby. We don't do it during the day, we just do it at night or on the weekend and when we've got the time.
I've got lots of, it's a very cluttered, in some people's eyes it's a very cluttered shed, but I've got lots of memorabilia I've been collecting since the early 80s, and I think, it's 2013 now, so it's nearly over 30 years, and I like to look back and look at a poster from the early 80s and remember what I was doing and who I was with, and the cars that I had, and in the case of the HR, that was the car that started me in the car scene. The HR that you see is a car that I built when I was 18 back in the late 70s, early 80s. And I built it for 10 years here in Adelaide and around Australia. I used to show the car and showed it at all the car shows and hot rod shows around the place. And in 1989 I sold it, and I had a chance in 2003, somebody found the car or knew where the car was. It was up at Loxton in South Australia, and my son managed to buy the car back, which we thought was pretty cool. And it was a bit of a wreck. It wasn't in a very good condition at the time, but everything that I'd put on the car in the day was still there. So we brought the car home, and over the next 5 years my son and I proceeded to strip it back to a bare shell and rebuild it. The car turned out a lot better than it was when I first built it, because with age and a little bit more money you tend to get a better job done, obviously. I had the car painted this time by the son of the guy that painted the car 30 years ago. So there was it was really neat having my son building the car with me and the painter having his son paint the car. It's a 65 Futura Coupe, and I'm the third owner. It's done 80,000 miles. I bought it off of a gentleman that had had the car since 1967. So he'd had it from 67 through to 2000, and I bought the car. I was building the Mustang at the time, and I didn't have anything to drive, so I bought the car just as a cruiser, and thought that I would, once the Mustang had been finished, I would probably just sell the Falcon, but my wife and I fell in love with it. It's a really nice car to drive, so we basically hung on to it. If I like a car, I like a car, and I think some people like a particular marque, but I'm into, whether it be Fords or Holdens or Porsche or Mustang, Cortinas, English cars, American cars. If I like a car, then I tend to go after it and try and get hold of one. I suppose I've got different levels of cars. The HR is a top sort of show level car, and was fully detailed, right, every nut and bolt, right through to, it's a modified car, but it was fully detailed. The Mustang is a concourse car, built to very original standards, the same sort of thing, but everything's original, nothing was changed. So it was all about keeping that to a concourse level for judging. And then the Falcon is sort of more of just an everyday driver car. There's no detailing on the car. The little Mark 1 Cortina is the same, that's just sort of an everyday car. And then you've got the race car, the Mark 1 Cortina, which is, again, it's all about performance with these sort of cars. So cosmetics are not as important. It's got a nice paint job, but the finer detailing and finish work is not quite the same, because it's all about how fast it goes around the corner and lap times. So you spend all your money on the go department, not the show department, I suppose. Yeah, there's lots of different things in the shed, and I've got this yellow flag that sort of hangs up in the corner there, and it was made for me by one of the wives of the guys that I race with, and about 10 years ago I was racing at Winton Raceway, and I passed a car under yellow, and in racing that means you end up in front of the stewards and you end up getting fined. So I paid my penance, and when I got back to the hotel that night, of course, one of the girls there had made me up this flag for me to remember the event by. So apart from the $200 fine, I had a little flag to remember it by. I like something, then I don't see the point of, I have a long-term affair with things.